As we move in closer to the Suzuka GP this weekend, the Chinese GP has given us many clues as to what could happen in Japan. Mercedes are ahead, Ferrari is close, but not close enough. McLaren are in a no man's land, and the rest are nowhere. However, Ferrari has an opportunity in Suzuka to take away what looks like a guaranteed victory for the Mercedes boys. Ferrari's best opportunity is here in Suzuka, more so than anywhere else they've raced this year. If they can work together, it's all to play for. In this round, we could have a Ferrari driver on the top step after the checkered flag is waved. Let's break it down. The major factor which seems to be separating the field and keeping Mercedes untouchable at the moment is their ability to manage their tyres and extract pace from all the compounds. Their inherent pace advantage against Ferrari just gives them that ability to get out into free air, build a gap, manage their tyres and maintain that pace across all points of the race. In Suzuka, tyre management is the most crucial thing. Suzuka is an absolute terror on tyres. There's plenty of high-speed corners. This puts a lot of lateral load and force on the tyres and grains them severely. The track has recently got relayed and the asphalt is an abrasive one. This all just compounds, no pun intended, and this just essentially forms the dream team of damaging tyres. Tyre degradation will be the most defining ingredient in how the 2026 Japanese GP will shake out. Suzuka is the first real test of how the new 50-50 hybrid split will handle the challenging Suzuka circuit. Suzuka is an old school track, plenty of gravel trap, the famous fast-flowing S's, 130R. The track is high speed, has a nice flowy layout and requires much commitment to get around. Mercedes are the pick of the field after the first two Grand Prix. They have the best power unit at the moment, as was seen in China, where we saw Mercedes consistently hitting a top speed in the range of 340 to 345 kilometers an hour, whereas the Ferraris were only finding 300 to 330 kilometers an hour. This was basically throughout the entire Grand Prix consistently. Ferrari just had no ability to compete on the straights with the Mercedes. The consensus after the Australian and Chinese GP is that Mercedes are currently sitting around 3.5 to 4 tenths ahead of their closest challengers, Ferrari. If we look at the following pace distribution charts here, in Australia, Mercedes were roughly 1.5 tenths clear of Ferrari, and in China that extended all the way to 6 tenths. That's per lap, every lap on average. The sprint was actually slightly more, around 8 tenths between them. Those figures are pretty insane, let's not sugarcoat. On race day, their car seems to be an absolute monster. In qualifyings as well, right now nobody can get even within the same postcode of Mercedes. This already tells us that Mercedes should have the clear advantage going into Suzuka. The Suzuka circuit tends to favor cars that have good downforce and stability under high speed, which Mercedes have checked both boxes regarding that. They had the fastest cornering speed in China, and their car consistently pulled better speeds than their current competitor Ferrari. And Mercedes, just to add a little more spice, we see from the data that Mercedes has the best ability to manage their tyres while still maintaining its pace. However, not all hope is lost, ladies and gentlemen. Ferrari do have an opportunity. Ferrari has those great race start procedures. If they can qualify at least on the second row, third and fourth, and ace the start, get ahead of the Mercedes, this will be the place to have the race lead. Especially with the long run down to the first corner and turns 1 and 2 being so wide as opposed to the other parts of the circuit, this produces a lot of opportunity for Ferrari to find a way through. If they can get the lead of the race, the lead car needs to try and make a gap, and the guy in second, whether it be Lewis or Charles, needs to try and hold up the Mercedes for as long as possible. In Suzuka, this is a very possible thing. Suzuka is generally a low overtake track. Because it's narrow and so high speed, this makes crazy amounts of dirty air for the following car, which also kills the car which is behind. It kills their tyres being in that dirty air. Most opportunities here will only come from the final straight or in the heavy braking zones. So, if Ferrari can work together and not get in a scrap with each other like we saw in China, the opportunity for the lead car to create a gap is possible. Typically, at the start of the race, Ferrari are able to hold their tyres for a while. If the second Ferrari can just keep challenging the Mercedes, keeping them in the dirty air, slow them up, the lead Ferrari could have a chance to run away with it. If the lead Ferrari can pull a gap and the following Ferrari holds up the Mercedes for 10, 15, 20 laps, that will certainly be enough to control the race, disregarding any safety cars or VSCs happening. It sounds like a sacrifice, and yes, it is. The second Ferrari will get eaten up, but what's the problem? At the moment, with the pace disadvantage, they'll probably finish third and fourth anyways. I think all the fans just want an entertaining race, and Ferrari could possibly make it happen in Suzuka. Pinning hopes on Ferrari just feels scary. But on a serious note, if Ferrari has a strategy to work together, it can work. As we talked about earlier, where the Mercedes were pulling between 20 to 40 kilometers more than the Ferrari on the straights, this was the super clipping in action. Ferrari was constantly banking on the battery to save them, which didn't happen. And because the deployment was not as good as the Mercedes and the inherent pace advantage and higher cornering speeds, it just meant the Ferrari couldn't hold it together to keep ahead of the Mercedes when going down that straight. No rain is expected over the weekend at the moment. However, the forecast shows brief rain on Thursday. If there is rain, I think we'll all be very interested to see how these new cars get along in the rainy conditions. As for the likes of McLaren, we heard that they had electrical issues in China. When they were in Australia, they didn't have a good performance there either. They probably don't have much to challenge the Mercedes or Ferrari this weekend. Probably will end up best of the rest, assuming they make it to the grid this time. The rest of the grid, well, yeah, they're nowhere in sight. Then there's the hidden handicap weight. No hints, but you know who I'm talking about. As we found out from China, there's a certain blue car which is called Red Bull or something like that. Perhaps you guys have heard of them. They used to be champions and now their car is a tad bit too fat. The FIA set a minimum weight limit of 768 kilograms and the Red Bull is currently weighing a grand 787 kilograms. That's 19 kgs overweight. Having this at Suzuka, which is basically one long series of directional changes, the heavier your car, the worse it is on your tyres. That extra weight puts more lateral load, especially in the curves. This just causes more graining. If the tyres get grained, they fall off a cliff. If that happens, you're screwed. Your times will be slow. You possibly have to do extra stops. And you'll be fighting to just stay on the track. It's a world of pain. It should be a disaster for Red Bull once again, unless they found a way to get the car a bit lighter. Also, this manual override mode, I don't know how this is going to work in Suzuka. Besides the main straight, where else do you use that thing on this track? Using your manual override through 130R is a suicide mission. Imagine applying 350 kilowatts of boost through a corner with that kind of angle. Yeah, mate, you're probably not going to make it. This race, we're probably going to be in for a chess match with this boost and overtake buttons. If you use them trying to pass somewhere in Sector 2, you'll be a sitting duck by the time you reach the start-finish line. Then what? You'll be behind again because Sector 1 has next to no opportunities to pass. So the only viable option that remains for you to pass someone is on the start-finish straight. Pirelli is bringing the C1, C2 and C3 compounds this weekend, the hardest in the range, which is telling enough that Suzuka is hungry for using up tyres. From the 2025 race, we find a bit of reference for the strategy. Almost the entire field ran on a single stop, medium into hard strategy across the 53 laps. The longest hard stint came from Doohan at 38 laps. Sainz and Lawson were the only other two who ran medium to soft without using the hard at all. Stroll was the only driver who ran all three compounds actually. So the hard tyres should be the predominant tyre once again here. We could be looking at one or two stoppers again in all likelihood. The hard will be the preferred compound for most, if not all, the teams. The Mercedes was loving the C2s in China, where they put in basically all of the fastest laps for the race on those. This will be the first time in the year we will see how these cars do on the C1s. In China, Mercedes was able to keep the C2s in the Goldilocks zone for 25 laps. It will be interesting to see if they are the same or better on the C1s. Hopefully Ferrari has found a way over the past few weeks to manage and keep their tyres better. Suzuka has always been that track which shows the fast cars and almost discards the slow ones. If we look back at the previous seasons, generally the champion who won the title in the year, both driver and constructor won the race at Suzuka. If Mercedes gets another 1-2, this season may be already printing Mercedes' name on the Constructors' Championship trophy. But if Ferrari can play the team game and not get into a full war with one another, and are willing to sacrifice a podium for a race win, we might just have a fight on our hands. Thank you. That's it from me. If you enjoyed, comment down below, drop a subscribe, and tell me who you think's going to win the Japanese Grand Prix.